Have you ever seen it happen with someone you care about? A parent, a grandparent. They seem so strong, so independent, well into their late 70s.
Oh, absolutely.
And then, almost right after they hit 80, something just shifts. It's like a switch flips.
It's a really sharp decline, often. And it's baffling to watch.
Yeah, one year they're, hosting the family for the holidays, and the next they're suddenly struggling with their balance, or they're tired all the time, or there's this fogginess they can't shake.
And it creates this huge contrast, doesn't it? Because right alongside that person, you see someone else who it seems to just defy time. They're sharp, they're engaged, well into their 90s.
Right. And for so long, we've just chalked that up to, oh, it's just luck, or, they have good genes.
Something totally out of our control.
Exactly. And we think that's a really, a dangerous way to look at it. Our deep dive today is all about challenging that idea that this fate is just, old age.
It's not.
Our sources point to 4 specific quiet forces that really start to accelerate things right after 80. And these aren't loud, obvious things like a heart attack. They're these invisible shifts that are silently stealing away strength.
And our mission today is to give you that intellectual armor to fight back. This isn't just about surviving. It's about really understanding these subtle changes, both biological and psychological.
Because when they're ignored, that's when you see that rapid slide into fragility.
Exactly. But when you understand them, when you address them, that's when you can actually thrive. We're going to get into the specific mechanics of these 4 forces, what makes them so good at, stealing away independence.
And we've structured this so that the 4th force is the one that's probably most surprising. But from a scientific standpoint, it might also be the one you have the most control over. And understanding it, it changes everything. Okay, so let's start with our first quiet force. It has a clinical name, but the effect is something I think we can all relate to. It's called inflammaging. So when most of us think of inflammation, we think of the obvious kind. You sprain your ankle.
Right. It swells up, it hurts, it gets red.
Exactly. And that's your immune system rushing in to fix a problem.
Yeah.
It has a purpose.
It's a good thing in that context. But what's so interesting here is that inflammaging is the complete polar opposite of that.
How so?
It's chronic, it's low grade, and it's systemic, meaning it's happening everywhere in your body. Think of it like a tiny, slow gas leak in a house that's been going on for 20 years. You don't see it, you might not even smell it, but it's slowly poisoning the air and weakening the whole structure.
That's a great analogy. So it's this quiet fire burning inside the body.
A quiet fire, exactly. And it's the result of decades of, cellular garbage and stress that just never got fully cleaned up.
So let's get into the mechanism. Why does it seem to hit the accelerator right around 80? What's going on?
It's all about accumulation. So throughout our lives, our cells take damage, and sometimes they go into this weird state called senescence. We sometimes call them zombie cells.
Right, I've heard that term.
They don't die, but they stop dividing. Instead, they just hang around, and they're not passive. They're releasing this constant stream of pro-inflammatory signals. And by the time you're 80, the sheer number of these zombie cells can just overwhelm your immune system's ability to clear them out.
So the body's cleanup crew is just exhausted.
Completely exhausted. It's constantly fighting this phantom threat. And that's when these inflammatory signals, these cytokines, things like IL-6 and TNF-alpha, their levels just stay high all the time.
And what does that do to the system? I mean, when those markers are constantly elevated.
It's like putting friction on everything. It just speeds up the entire aging process. It's not one thing, it's systemic chaos. For instance, these cytokines attack the lining of your blood vessels, which makes your arteries stiffer, raising your cardiovascular risk.
And the fogginess, the brain fog we mentioned.
That's a direct connection. They compromise the blood-brain barrier, so these inflammatory molecules can actually leak into the brain, and that's a direct cause of that cognitive fog. And even the mood swings people just write off as getting old.
Wow. It really is just friction everywhere.
Yeah.
And what's scary is that someone could think they're doing everything right and still be affected by this.
That's the insidious part.
We have a perfect example of this. A man named George from Minnesota, he was 82.
And George was the model of, responsible aging. He was incredibly disciplined, never smoked, didn't drink, and he walked 3 miles every single morning. A strict habit.
You'd think he'd feel great.
You would. But despite all that, he felt tired all the time. Foggy, slow, and he just assumed, this must be what 82 feels like.
His regular doctor couldn't find anything acutely wrong. No fever, no specific disease.
Right, because inflammaging hides in plain sight. It just looks like being tired. It wasn't until his doctors ran some really specialized tests. They looked at things like high sensitivity, C-reactive protein, or HSCRP, and his IL-6 levels.
And what did they find?
They were through the roof, sky high. He had systemic inflammation at a level you normally see in someone fighting off a major infection. But he wasn't sick in that way. He was just being slowly worn down from the inside by his own cellular environment.
So all those years of maybe processed foods or stress from his career or just environmental stuff, it all finally added up.
It reached a critical mass. His daily walk was great for his heart, don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't enough to counteract decades of that silent internal fire.
Yeah, that's the real aha
Yeah.
moment here. You have to fight this from the inside out.
Precisely. And the good news, the really hopeful part, is that the best tools to fight inflammaging are often simple and free. It's all about consistent behaviors that get to the root of that cellular stress.
Okay, so let's be specific. What are the strongest tools from the research? How do you actually turn down that heat?
Well, number one is a shift to whole foods. Getting away from things that have zero nutritional value but force your immune system to work overtime. Things like industrial seed oils, refined sugar, you know the culprits.
And replacing them with?
Nutrient density, things that actually support cell repair. Antioxidants, fiber to support your gut, which is a huge regulator of inflammation.
You mentioned movement, and we know George was walking. But why does movement, beyond just cardio, specifically fight this?
Movement acts like a flushing system. When your muscles contract, they release these anti-inflammatory molecules called myokines, and they actively suppress those nasty cytokines like IL-6.
So your muscles are actually creating their own anti-inflammatory medicine.
They are, and you're also boosting circulation, which helps your body's cleanup crews get around and clear out that cellular junk. So consistent low-level activity is the antidote to the stagnation that fuels this whole process.
And we can't forget the environmental side. Clean air to reduce the load on your lungs, and a bit of sunshine.
Yes, for vitamin D. It's not just for bones, it's a critical immune modulator. It helps keep your immune system from overreacting and, fanning the flames.
So this is all about small daily decisions.
It's a marathon of self-care. It's about turning down that internal fire 1 degree at a time every single day. If you don't get a handle on inflammaging, you're starting the fight against the other forces from a huge disadvantage.
Okay, that brings us to our second force, sarcopenia, which translates literally to poverty of flesh.
A pretty dramatic name.
It is, but it fits. We're talking about the quiet disappearing act of muscle. And if inflammaging is the friction in the system, sarcopenia is the loss of your physical armor. It's what sets the stage for a real catastrophe.
And we have to be clear about the timeline here because it's so important. Most people know we start losing muscle in our 30s, but it's really slow. You barely notice. After 60, maybe you lose 1 or 2% a year.
But after 80, the curve changes.
It changes dramatically. The rate of loss can suddenly triple or even quadruple. It's terrifyingly fast.
But wait, why? Why the huge acceleration after 80? I mean, is it just that people are less active, or is there something deeper going on physiologically?
That is the critical question. And while, yes, being less active makes it worse, the real driver is a physiological breakdown called anabolic resistance.
Anabolic resistance, what does that mean?
Okay, so when you're young, if you eat some protein or lift a weight, your body immediately gets a signal to build muscle. It's called protein synthesis. As we age, and especially past 80, our muscle cells become resistant to those growth signals.
So even if an 85-year-old eats a steak, their body has a much harder time using that protein to actually build or repair muscle compared to a 25-year-old.
A much harder time. Exactly. Yep. And on top of that, your mitochondria, the little powerhouses in your cells, they become less efficient, so there's less energy available for muscle repair. You combine that with declining anabolic hormones like testosterone and growth hormone, and you've created a perfect storm where muscle is breaking down way faster than it can be rebuilt.
And this shows up in what you called the little things first.
Always the little things. It doesn't start with being unable to lift a heavy box. It starts with losing your grip strength. That jar of pickles becomes impossible to open.
Or needing to rock a little bit to get out of a deep chair.
Yes. Or you notice your walking pace is slowed down. That's a huge sign. It means your lower body just doesn't have the power it used to.
And those little things, they're really a signal that your protective buffer is gone.
The buffer is gone. And when the buffer is gone, a tiny event can become a catastrophe.
Let's break down that danger. When you have good muscle strength, Your body can react in milliseconds to stabilize you. You trip on a crack in the sidewalk.
And your core and your leg muscles fire instantly to catch you before your center of gravity shifts too far. You recover.
But without that muscle strength.
That same little trip on a rug, catching your foot on a curb, it immediately becomes a life-changing event. We tend to focus on the broken bone, like a hip fracture. But the immobility that follows, that's often the real killer. It starts that infamous decline spiral.
The sources have a really sobering story about this. A man named Frank from Ohio, 84 years old.
Right, and Frank was sharp, good sense of humor, lived completely independently, his mind was in great shape.
But his physical resilience was secretly disappearing because of this accelerating sarcopenia. His leg muscles, his quads and glutes, they had just silently wasted away. He was still walking, but he had no reserve strength left.
None. And one afternoon, he was in his kitchen. He just caught his toe on the edge of a rug. It wasn't some huge, dramatic fall.
But he didn't have that millisecond of muscle power to recover.
He didn't. So he went down hard, broke his hip. And what followed is just this devastating, predictable spiral: surgery, a hospital stay, and then weeks in bed to recover.
And that's the point where things get critical, isn't it? The time in bed.
It's the point of no return for so many. Even a few days of being completely immobile causes massive rapid muscle loss. It's called disuse atrophy. Frank lost a huge percentage of his remaining strength just lying in that hospital bed.
So even when he was cleared for physical therapy, he was starting from such a deficit.
He had nothing left to fight back with. He ended up needing a walker permanently, and eventually he needed help with just daily activities. The fall precipitated the decline, but the sarcopenia he'd been unknowingly cultivating for years is what made it catastrophic.
That's the tragic part. Muscle strength isn't just about lifting things, it's independence, it's dignity, it's the freedom to live your life on your own terms.
It's everything. But, and this is the scientific verification of hope, muscle loss is not a one-way street. It is not final. You can slow it and you can even reverse it at any age, even 90.
How is that possible if you have anabolic resistance?
Because the muscle cells still have the nuclei, the machinery needed for growth. The body will respond to resistance training. You just have to be consistent, and the signal has to be strong enough to overcome that resistance.
And you're stressing that this doesn't mean you need to go join a gym with intimidating weight machines.
Absolutely not. This is about functional movements that directly challenge the muscles you need for daily life. We're talking about simple, light weights, resistance bands, things you can do at home.
Like the sit-to-stand exercise.
The sit-to-stand is king. It's the single best exercise because it trains the exact movement you need to get out of a chair or off the toilet. It works your glutes, your quads, the biggest muscles in your body.
And the fuel component is non-negotiable here.
You can't ask your muscles to rebuild without giving them the bricks. The sources are really clear on this. High-quality, protein-rich meals are essential. And because of anabolic resistance, older adults often need more protein than younger people just to maintain what they have.
Maybe 30 to 50% more.
At least. If Frank had been consistently eating enough protein before his fall, his body's ability to repair itself might have been a completely different story.
So you're not just maintaining muscle, you're building a physical reserve, a buffer.
You're building a buffer to withstand everything else. The inflammation, a minor illness, the inevitable slips and trips of life. It is proactive self-defense.
All right, let's move to force 3. This is a big one that's so often just dismissed. We're talking about the sleep crisis after 80.
And it is a crisis. And it gets normalized. So many people, seniors and their families, just say, oh, that's just normal for this age.
Grandma doesn't sleep well anymore.
Right. And that normalization leads to so much unnecessary suffering and, frankly, accelerated decline.
Because the very architecture of sleep changes after 80.
It changes dramatically. Your sleep becomes much lighter, it gets shorter, and it's far more fragmented. Someone might be in bed for 8 hours, but the actual restorative time, the deep, slow wave sleep and the REM sleep is just decimated.
They're waking up constantly.
Constantly, sometimes for long stretches in the middle of the night. They're never completing those full healing sleep cycles.
And the consequences of that are just,
Yep.
they're everywhere. It's a cascading failure across the entire body.
Oh, absolutely. When your sleep quality tanks, everything suffers, and the symptoms often just look like getting older.
So things like memory problems.
Right. Because your brain can't perform its nightly cleaning. Your balance and motor control get worse, which of course directly increases your risk of falling. Sarcopenia again.
Mood regulation too.
Your mood becomes so fragile. You see more anxiety, more depression. And your immune system gets hammered, making you more likely to get sick from every little thing that comes along.
Okay, let's go deep on the science here, because this is fascinating. This isn't just about passive rest. Why is deep sleep so absolutely critical? Why is it the body's essential repair system?
We have to talk about the glymphatic system. It's one of the most incredible discoveries in neuroscience in the last couple of decades.
The brain's what now?
The glymphatic system. So think of your brain as a really busy city. During the day, it's working hard and it produces a lot of metabolic waste. Toxic stuff, like the amyloid beta proteins that are linked to cognitive decline.
So it's like the city's garbage.
Exactly. And the glymphatic system is the brain's unique internal garbage collection service.
And when does the garbage truck run?
Critically, it runs almost exclusively during deep, slow-wave sleep. During that phase, some of your brain cells actually shrink a little, which opens up these channels. And that allows cerebrospinal fluid to flush through your brain tissue, literally washing away all those toxins. The system is up to 10 times more active during that deep sleep phase than when you're awake.
So if someone's waking up all the times, or they're just not getting to that deep sleep stage for very long, they're basically failing to take out the trash in their brain every night.
That's a perfect way to put it. The toxins build up. This leads to neuroinflammation, which connects right back to force 1, Inflammaging.
And it's all connected.
It's all connected. During deep sleep, the immune system resets and lowers those inflammatory cytokines. Key hormones, like growth hormone, which helps fight sarcopenia, are released in bursts during deep sleep. If your sleep is fragmented, you are kneecapping your ability to fight all 4 of these forces at the same time.
And this brings us back to the story of Alice from Florida, who was 86. Her story is all about the danger of just accepting this as normal.
Right. Alice was a bright woman, but she had completely accepted that waking up 4, maybe 5 times a night was just part of being 86.
She'd get up, maybe read a little, watch some TV. She thought she was still getting 8 hours in total.
But she was getting almost 0 restorative sleep. She wasn't clearing out that neurological waste. She wasn't getting that hormonal repair boost. And the outcome was predictable. Within a year, her short-term memory took a scary dip.
Her energy levels must have plummeted.
Her energy disappeared, which made her less motivated to move, which of course makes sarcopenia worse. And she was always catching colds, fighting off little infections. Her immune system was compromised, which was fueling her inflammaging. It was a vicious cycle.
So the big conclusion here is that after 80, good sleep isn't a luxury. It's medicine.
It's powerful, necessary medicine. We have to treat what we call sleep hygiene with the same seriousness as taking your heart medication.
Okay, so let's shift to the actionable side. What can people do? We're talking about discipline-based solutions, not just pills.
Right, because sleep medications can sometimes cause more problems than they solve. This is about managing your environment and your behavior.
Let's outline them and explain the why behind them. For instance, why is a steady bedtime routine so important?
The routine is all about regulating your body's master clock. It's a little region in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, and it thrives on predictability.
It likes a schedule.
It loves a schedule. When you start to wind down at the same time every night, you're training your body to release melatonin at the optimal moment, which signals to the brain that it's time to rest.
Okay, and connect morning sunlight to nighttime sleep. How does getting sun in the morning help you 9 hours later?
Morning sunlight is the most powerful signal your master clock receives all day. Getting that light, preferably within a half hour of waking up, sets the clock. It tells your brain, okay, the day has officially started. And that strong daytime signal is what allows for a strong melatonin pulse later on when the lights go down.
It's like setting a timer.
It is. And then there's the environment of the bedroom itself.
Cool and dark.
Cool and dark are critical. Your body's core temperature needs to drop to get into and stay in deep sleep. And then the behavioral stuff is huge. No caffeine after, say, noon. And the biggest one for many people, avoiding the bright blue light from screens, TVs, phones, tablets for at least an hour before bed.
Because that blue light is a direct signal to the brain to stay awake.
It's the most potent suppressor of melatonin there is. By managing these things, you're not just trying to sleep more, you're trying to restore your body's entire centralized repair system. You're fighting all the other forces just by respecting the power of real sleep.
Okay, we've arrived at Force 4. And this is the one that connects the mind and the body so directly. It's loneliness and the loss of daily purpose.
And if the first 3 forces are attacking the body's machinery, this one attacks the will to even maintain the machinery.
This is the insight that moves beyond just the clinic, beyond pure biology. And the research here is it's staggering. It shows that loneliness isn't just an emotional problem. It is a profound physical danger.
The statistics are chilling. We're not talking about small effects. The data shows that chronic social isolation can shorten your life more than being severely obese.
More than lack of exercise.
In some studies, more than chronic heavy smoking. That tells you something fundamental about our biology. The human system is built to be social, and when you deprive it of that, it registers as a massive, life-threatening stressor.
So let's make the direct connection. How does feeling lonely cause physical, chemical harm in the body? Bring it back to force one, inflammaging.
Okay, so when your brain perceives isolation, this lack of a safe, reliable connection to others, it triggers the ancient fight or flight response.
The stress response.
Right, and it leads to this chronic activation of your sympathetic nervous system. Your body is always just a little bit on edge, and that state of constant low-level alarm leads to a sustained release of stress hormones, especially cortisol.
And what does chronic high cortisol do?
It is one of the most powerful drivers of inflammation. So loneliness isn't just sad, it is chemically toxic.
Yeah.
It's driving up those same inflammatory cytokines that were wearing George down from the inside.
Wow. So our need for belonging, for an identity, it's not just a feeling, it's a biological imperative.
It drives our entire system, and loneliness is one half of this coin. The other half is the loss of purpose.
And this is where the decline can be so quiet. It's not always a big dramatic depression. Sometimes life just gets quiet.
That's the perfect phrase for it. The natural rhythm you had from your career or from raising kids or just having a busy social life, it starts to fade.
Yeah.
And it leaves this huge void.
You see it so often with people who retire from very structured, demanding jobs. Their whole identity was tied up in it.
Absolutely. The alarm clock stops ringing. The daily to-do list disappears. And the big question changes from what do I need to get done today to how am I going to fill the next 12 hours? And that loss of rhythm, it's devastating because rhythm gives us meaning. It gives us energy. It gives us hope.
The anecdote about Bill from Arizona, who was 88, just illustrates this so perfectly.
And his situation is heartbreakingly common. He lost his wife about 5 years before. His kids live in other states.
So he's not necessarily clinically depressed.
No, but he is profoundly isolated. The sources note that on most days, Bill literally does not speak a single word to another human being. His life has just become this loop of tasks without meaning. Eat, sleep, watch TV, repeat. The silence is the main feature of his life.
He's missing that fundamental thing you need for vitality, which is something to wake up for.
Yes. And without a purpose, the motivation to do all the things we've been talking about, to fight the inflammation, to do the strength exercises, to stick to the sleep routine, it just evaporates. The brain signals to the body that the mission is over so the system can start shutting down.
So purpose is the deepest form of medicine.
It's the engine. It's what drives the consistency you need to fight all four forces. It gives you back those crucial biochemicals like dopamine for motivation and oxytocin from connection. It's a signal to every cell in your body. We are still required. Maintain strength.
And the beautiful thing here is that purpose doesn't have to be some grand world-changing mission. After 80, it's entirely scalable. Tiny acts of meaning can have huge rewards.
The examples are so accessible, it's about low energy investment for a high return on meaning. Things like feeding the birds every morning.
That gives you a schedule, a reason to get up and go outside. You're caring for something.
Exactly. Or making a commitment to call one friend every single day. That breaks the silent feedback loop of loneliness.
Volunteering for just an hour a week, or teaching a grandchild a skill that you have. Even something like writing down some of your life stories.
These are structured daily rituals. They require a small but real investment of energy, but they pay you back tenfold in meaning, identity, and hope. They turn a day of passively waiting into a day of actively contributing.
So the conclusion is really stark. Loneliness weakens the body. Purpose strengthens it.
And after 80, purpose and connection might just be the most powerful medicine there is. So we've covered a lot. We've gone through the 4 quiet forces: inflammaging, sarcopenia, the sleep crisis, and this loss of purpose and loneliness. And what's so critical to see is how they all work together.
They're not separate problems.
Not at all. They're synergistic. Poor sleep makes inflammation worse. That inflammation makes you weaker and saps your energy. That weakness makes it harder to get out and be social, which increases isolation. And that isolation destroys your will to do anything about it. It's a feedback loop.
Okay, so let's take a moment for some critical reflection here. We want you, our listener, to use this as a roadmap, not a scary prediction. Think about it. Which of these four forces might already be quietly at work in your life or in the life of someone you love?
Is there an invisible fire burning, like with George? Is that functional strength just silently fading away, like it did for Frank?
Is quality restorative sleep being treated like a luxury instead of a necessity, like with Alice? Or has life just gotten too quiet, too unstructured, like it did for Bill?
This knowledge is a chance to reframe what aging means. It isn't about passively fading away. It has to be about actively refining your focus, about protecting what really matters, your function, your mind, your identity. You have to protect these four pillars with consistent, intentional effort.
All right, now for the practical part. We've distilled all of this down into 4 simple, actionable directives. These are the small, consistent steps that lead to big results. This is where the rubber meets the road.
The first directive is all about Force 1. It's simple. Reduce hidden inflammation.
And the action is just as simple. Add 1 whole nutrient-dense food to every single meal. A handful of berries at breakfast, a side of leafy greens with lunch. You get the idea.
And commit to 1 15-minute brisk walk a day. The goal there is circulation, flushing the system, releasing those myokines.
And drink 1 extra glass of water. That's it. Consistency here is so much more important than intensity.
Okay, directive number 2 for Force 2. Protect your functional strength.
Focus on power. Every single morning, do 5 sit-to-stands. Try to do it without using your hands. This is non-negotiable functional training.
And twice a week, pull out some light resistance bands. Focus on the big movements that work multiple muscles, rows, presses, squats.
And critically, make sure you're eating enough high-quality protein spread throughout the day. Don't let that anabolic resistance win the war.
Directive number 3, to fight Force 3. Improve sleep quality and brain clearance.
This is all about rigid hygiene. Create a steady, predictable bedtime routine. A sequence of things, maybe some tea, reading a book, light stretching, that tells your brain sleep is coming.
And you must avoid all screens, phones, tablets, TV for 1 full hour before bed. Protect your melatonin.
And get that room cool and dark. Optimize the environment for that deep, restorative sleep.
And finally, our 4th and maybe most powerful directive for Force 4. Rebuild purpose and connection.
This is your intentional investment in meaning. Call 1 person a day, even just for a 5-minute chat. It breaks the cycle of loneliness.
Join 1 small, structured activity each week. A book club, a walking group, a volunteer shift, something that gives you rhythm and identity.
And start 1 tiny personal daily ritual that just brings you joy or makes you feel accountable. Tending a plant, doing a challenging puzzle, mentoring someone. That daily micro-purpose is the greatest medicine of all.
It's all about small steps applied with intelligence, leading to a massive protective effect. This isn't about turning back the clock. It's about making smart, science-based choices right now to protect your independence tomorrow.
That has been an incredibly deep dive into these 4 systemic forces that can steal our strength after 80. We've really moved past the idea that this is all just luck or genes, and we've zeroed in on these invisible threats that you now have the knowledge to influence.
And I hope everyone takes away how deeply interconnected these all are. The mind and body are one system. Every little win you have in one area, like improving your deep sleep, it has a positive cascade effect on the other 3. It lowers inflammation, it helps your muscles repair, it improves your mood, which makes it easier to find purpose.
And so, here's the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. If purpose is, as all this material so strongly suggests, the greatest medicine after 80, then how can we start building that rhythm and meaning into our lives right now, no matter how old we are?
How can we safeguard our own future well-being by making sure we are always building a life that we are excited to wake up for?
That proactive investment in your future self. That is the definition of true wisdom.
Stay strong, stay curious, and stay connected.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.